going to be relaxed when I joined, and there was dance music playing. I thought that maybe I was at the wrong event. We were just going to have a dance party, but I love the vibes. Let me just click on that. Okay, cool. So thank you everyone for turning up to experience mind shifting, especially as you probably don't really know what that is yet. So thank you even more for showing up and giving it a chance. So I think what I'll start by doing is just a very short presentation to introduce you and explain what mind shifting is, and then we'll get into actually demoing it, because I do want all of you to experience it today. That's the whole idea. Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you give me the thumbs up, someone, if you can see the presentation? It says mind shifting. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Great. Okay, so just move that over there. You can minimize. Okay, guys, so basically, mind shifting. Well, first of all, let me just talk about what we're exactly going to do in today's session. Okay, so first of all, I'll just give you this short presentation, let you know what mind shifting is all about. Then what I'd like to do is a little demonstration with one person so that you can see how mind shifting works when you're doing it on someone else. Okay, that'll give you a much better idea than me just talking about it. But then once you know what it's all about, what I'd like to do is a mind shifting process on everyone all at once, so you can actually experience it. And then finally, we'll have a question and answer session, and just, I'll answer any questions that you have about it. So first of all, what is mind shifting? Basically, mind shifting enables people to unblock their subconscious minds so that their problems disappear and they can start creating the reality they want. I'll explain more about this as we go. Essentially, it's a set of 6 methods that you can see on the screen there, and I'll talk you through what the different methods do in just a moment. But what they all have in common is they take on average 10 minutes to apply, sometimes quicker, sometimes a bit longer. They can be applied to yourself as a personal development practice. They can be applied to other people, so your friends, your family, or coaching clients, if that's what you do. And they can also be applied to whole groups of people, which you're going to experience today. They enable more transformation in 1 hour than is possible with 6 months of life coaching or therapy. Now, that might seem like a big claim, but hopefully after today, you'll see the power of these methods and you'll see why I'm saying that. So let me just talk you through what some of these different methods do. But let's start with problem shifting. You're going to experience that today when we do the group method. This is a method that basically means you can take any problem you're experiencing and dissolve that problem, clear that problem, meaning once you've applied the method, you will no longer be experiencing that situation as a problem. And it can be any kind of problem. It could be stress at work, it could be a relationship breakup, absolutely anything. The second method I'll talk about, I'll go around in a kind of clockwise direction here. The second method is reality shifting. What this does is it enables you to achieve your goals essentially by removing the blockages that are in the way. What you'll find is that if you've ever tried law of attraction or trying to manifest what you want in your life, it sounds easy when you read a book like The Secret or listen to some of these teachings, but in reality it's difficult for most people. Why? Because our subconscious minds get in the way. We have the conscious goal we're trying to achieve, but we also have all these subconscious goals in our mind that get in the way. For example, let's say someone's goal is to write a book. That's their conscious goal, but they may have subconscious goals like, I need to be perfect, I need to get this right, etc., etc. So these subconscious goals will get in the way. So what reality shifting does is it removes all those blockages so that everything in your being, if you like, everything in your mind is pointing in the same direction, which enables you to achieve your goals without the usual struggle. We then have trauma shifting, which does what it says on the tin, as we say in the UK. it releases trauma. It releases the stuck emotions that remain after experiencing trauma or any negative experience from the past. Belief shifting transforms negative beliefs. It works on any beliefs, believe it or not. You can take someone that believes, for example, let's pick something recent. One person might believe that vaccinating against COVID is absolutely what everyone should do. Someone else might believe it's it's the devil's work or whatever. You can apply belief shifting to both beliefs and take each person, doesn't matter how stuck they were in the belief to begin with, and enable them to get to the point where they realize both are just beliefs. Okay, one may have more evidence than the other, doesn't matter, they're both just beliefs. But more often, what we use this powerful method for is we work backwards from a problem we're experiencing or an unconscious pattern that keeps repeating in our lives. And we ask ourselves, what do I believe about myself that's causing me to experience this problem? And the first thing that comes into our mind is the belief that's causing it. So it's always something we think we're lacking, like, I need to be loved, I need to be understood, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it, something like that. So we can clear those negative beliefs. Blockage shifting is a powerful method that completely clears the mind until the person literally cannot find anything to have a problem with in their mind. And this is very useful when someone can't even tell you what the problem is because they're confused or because there's so many problems in their mind. You can clear everything at once with that. And identity shifting, again, does what it says on the tin, really. It shifts your identity. Again, most often we work backwards from a problem we're experiencing or a goal that we're not achieving. And we can say to ourselves, what kind of person am I being that's causing me to experience this problem? Okay, and there's always an identity that's causing it. And I'll explain more about that in just a second. So where did mind shifting come from? Let me quickly tell you about that. And to do that, I also need to really just tell you about my own background. I got started with something called enlightenment intensives, which were invented by someone called Charles Berner. And these are intensive meditation retreats. I started when I was about 19. And you do these retreats for like 3 days or a week or 2 weeks. And you essentially meditate or contemplate for 18 hours a day on questions such as, who am I? What am I? What is life? What is another human being? And the point of it is to have a direct experience of reality, or you could say of the way things really are, beyond the mind, beyond the normal filters of the mind. So I was doing that quite intensively for about 10 years. And then there came a point where I realized, okay, I'm doing a lot of meditation here, having a lot of direct experiences, but that can't be the only path here because I'm still getting triggered by all of the stuff from my past that I haven't dealt with. So at that point, I started doing something called mind clearing, which was also developed by the same person, Charles Berner. But this was a type of therapy now. It was a talking style of therapy. So as soon as I tried that, I fell in love with it. I trained in it. It was a 3-year training, and I started seeing clients. So it's a type of therapy and a type of coaching. And whilst it had a lot of innovative principles, essentially it was still very similar to life coaching and, you know, counseling style therapies. So I was doing that and I became dissatisfied very quickly with the level of, or the speed at which people were transforming. You'd see people for weeks and months and they'd still be talking about the same problems. So at that point, I started looking around for more pioneering alternative methods that would work faster and be more transformative than these traditional type of therapies. And then I came across someone called Zivran Slavinsky almost 10 years ago now. And he had a whole field of research and of methods that he called spiritual technology. What I loved about these methods was you could apply them to yourself. You didn't always have to go to a coach or a therapist to work on yourself. So that meant I basically became obsessed is not exactly the right word, but I started doing a lot of hours a day, and I started to realize this is the direction I wanted to go in. And I thought I would just be a coach using these methods and teach people in Zibhurad's methods. But along the way, I found limitations with these methods. For example, none of the methods could permanently change negative beliefs. Those beliefs would always come back again. And as you get more experienced in this work, you start to see, well, these different problems and blockages in my life are all caused by these same beliefs, which aren't going away even with these powerful methods of Zibhurad's. And there would also be other certain things that, whilst the methods might work very well 9 times out of 10, there was always that one thing that they couldn't shift either for myself or my clients. So at that point, I started, extensive research and development, which basically meant experimenting on myself, trying methods different ways, challenging the assumptions. Zibhurad had many methods. So there was a lot to work with. And for about 2 years, I was experimenting. And for about 2 years, the methods that I developed weren't any better than the ones that came before. But eventually, thankfully, that changed. And, about a year ago, I consolidated all the methods I developed into mind shifting and started teaching this. I have a training course called Mind Shifting Academy, and I've been teaching that in that form for about a year. And I'm still developing methods all the time. So that's basically where we are now. It's because it's such a cutting edge field, it's we're always finding new and faster and better ways of doing things. Okay, so how does mind shifting work? I'm just going to read this. This is a quote from myself, which is a bit weird. I don't know why I did that. But the reality you experience is a reflection of your identity. In other words, it is a reflection of who you believe yourself to be. So this is a principle that you need to understand. And if you're into personal development, you may have come across this before. But it's basically saying that the circumstances of our life is a reflection of us. If you want different circumstances in your life, you need to be different. If you want to achieve a goal, you need to become the kind of person that's already achieved that goal. That's what this is saying. So as I read on, if your reality is not what you want it to be, in other words, your circumstances and emotional state are not what you would like, it is because your identity is not up to the job of creating that reality for you. So what mind shifting does is it transforms your reality by dissolving these false identities that are causing your problems and are preventing you from creating the reality you want. In other words, it frees you from these false identities that you're in, brings you back to who you really are, and it's that gets you unstuck. So how do we get stuck in false identities? Let me tell you a little bit of a story. It's not really a story, well, it's an example. Imagine there's a young child. Let's say it's a young girl. She's 8 years old. We'll call her Jane. The teacher asks Jane to get up in front of the class and read a poem in front of everyone. Jane starts doing that. Everyone laughs at her. Jane feels humiliated. So what she does is she automatically resists that experience of being humiliated. In order to resist the experience, in other words, not feel it fully, she has to adopt an identity that's not really her. So she adopts the identity of a withdrawn person or a hiding person, okay, or a shy person, something like that. That actually works pretty well at the time. That's how people deal with traumatic situations. It helps you not feel it fully, but the problem is it just causes all the thoughts and emotions that you resisted at the time to get stuck. And it also fixes you in that false identity. So let's fast forward 10 years. Jane is now 18 and there's a boy or girl that she likes and she wants to go and talk to them. But she's stuck in this withdrawn person identity. So whenever she goes to try and talk to this person that she likes, she feels super uncomfortable. Okay, and she's nervous. So in other words, she has a goal of talking to this person, but she can't achieve the goal easily because of these false identities. problems and goals are two sides of the same coin. The other way we can talk about it is that she experiences problems of being nervous around people or in social situations because of these false identities. So these false identities that you get stuck in do two things. They cause you problems and they prevent you from achieving your goals. In other words, they get you stuck. Okay. We could fast forward another few years. Let's say Jane is 25 and she decides she wants to start a business. And for this particular business, she has to go and talk in front of people. She's going to struggle if she's still stuck in that withdrawn identity. So you get the point here. Now, let me just explain briefly, because how we kind of create our reality, because there is a little bit of a hierarchy to it. At the surface level are our actions, because obviously, if I behave a certain way, if I take certain actions, I'm going to bring about different circumstances in my life. This top level is the level that life coaching works at. A life coach will help someone to get clear on the things they want to achieve, their goals, and then they'll help them get clear on the actions they need to take to achieve those goals. And that's generally where it ends. What's beneath that is our thoughts and emotions. We're not going to take action unless we have thoughts and emotions that tell us to. And the most important part of this is our emotions, because we behave in a way that we think is going to make us feel good and help us to avoid feeling bad. That's just seemingly hardwired in our DNA and our survival instinct. Okay. So what that's showing us is that if we want to change our actions, we need to change our thoughts and emotions. Now, this is a level usually that therapy works at. Life coaching can come down to this level a bit. Law of attraction teachings, which tell you to just raise your vibration so you can change your reality, meaning have better thoughts and emotions, are trying to get you to change at this level. But the problem is that our thoughts and emotions are determined by our beliefs. If I believe I'm not good enough and someone's mean to me, that belief is going to be triggered and I'm going to have thoughts and emotions, negative thoughts and emotions, essentially. I'm going to feel hurt, I'm going to feel worthless maybe, things like that. So it's our beliefs that determine our thoughts and emotions. So whereas these other modalities of life coaching, therapy, law of attraction teachings are trying to change the top two levels, they won't work and don't work unless we change the level below, which is the beliefs. Now, there are many modalities that claim to be able to transform limiting beliefs, but I've tried many of them and they don't work. At least they don't work permanently, because these beliefs keep coming back. And once you know how to check for that, it's very evident that most of these methods don't work. The reason is because in order to change beliefs, we have to change these identities, coming back to identities again, or identifications as I've written there. From this, let's go back to our example of Jane. Jane is in this withdrawn identity. From that identity, she's going to have a whole set of beliefs. For example, she might have a belief like, I can't talk to people I like, or I'm nervous in social situations, or, you know, I'm shy. Like all of these beliefs that come from that identity. Then those beliefs cause it to have, cause certain thoughts and emotions to be triggered in certain situations, and these emotions determine our actions. So without belaboring the point, hopefully now you see why we need to clear false identities in order to enable ourselves to change our reality. And our reality isn't only determined by our actions, it is also determined by our thoughts and emotions and our beliefs, meaning the circumstances that we experience, and you don't have to believe this. In fact, I prefer it when people don't just believe things people say, find out for yourself. But there seems to be some truth in the principle that the circumstances we experience are also determined by the quality of the thoughts and emotions we have, by what we believe, and by our identity. So it's not only that our identity works up and causes us to behave differently, which changes our circumstances, it's also that our circumstances are changed by all of these levels. Okay, and so going back to what we said before, our reality is a reflection of who we're being in the world. In other words, who we identify as. Okay, so we're nearly at the end, guys, of this presentation. What I want to say now is that mind shifting releases our false identities by making what has been resisted fully conscious. Because when the only reason we experience problems is because we've resisted our reality in some way. If we didn't ever resist anything, a problem would never be a problem long enough for us to notice it as a problem. Negative thoughts and emotions would come because of certain circumstances. They'd come, they'd go, they'd never be a problem because they wouldn't be there long enough. The reason we experience them as problems or blockages in the way of our goals is because we resist those negative circumstances and those negative thoughts and emotions those circumstances cause, which is what causes us to get stuck in these false identities. These false identities are held in place by everything we've resisted. So to release the false identity, what we need to do is stop resisting, basically come to a place of acceptance of what we've resisted. Whenever we resist something, it gets stuck in the subconscious. So another way of saying it is that mind shifting makes the subconscious fully conscious, which empties the subconscious of all of our problems and all the blockages in the way of our goals. Now, the way mind shifting does this is there are 6 different methods, but all of the methods follow the same principles. And that's this. First, we identify a small piece of what we've resisted. So you can think of that as if there was an iceberg underwater and it's pointing out into the air. The part that's in the air is what we're conscious of. Everything that's underwater is the subconscious, right, in this analogy. So first we need to identify a small piece of the problem or the blockage that we're conscious of. Then we need to feel it, which starts to take us a little bit under the water into the subconscious. And it's doing the opposite of what we did when we resisted our experience. Then we need to notice something about what we're feeling and then verbalize it. This is basically the formula for making the subconscious fully conscious. And this is how all the methods work. So just very briefly, I'll tell you what mind shifting isn't, because sometimes people make assumptions and think, oh, if it's this kind of method, then it must be one of these things. But it's not any of these things. It's not life coaching, counseling, therapy. It's not affirmations. It's not hypnosis or self-hypnosis. And it's not NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's its own thing. It's a new field. If it's like anything, it's like the methods that came before, which were pioneered by this guy, Stevie, that I mentioned. But it's not really like any of these other things. It's especially not like affirmations or hypnosis, because what those methods do is they try and, let's say you have a negative belief, like, I can't do it, for example. Affirmations is the practice of telling yourself over and over, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And that will have a temporary positive effect, but as soon as you stop saying the affirmations, the effect is gone. Because it's not actually touched the underlying negative belief of I can't do it, it's just trying to superimpose positive thoughts on top. Hypnosis is similar, and it will try and superimpose positive thoughts, implant positive thoughts into your mind. But again, the effect is not complete or permanent because it hasn't touched the underlying negative belief or negative identity. Okay, so who is mind shifting for? Basically, it's for anyone who wants to achieve their goals and perhaps fulfill a deeper purpose in their life. It's also for anyone that's on a path of personal or spiritual development. And it's for coaches, therapists, healers, anyone in that kind of profession who wants to be able to help people with more powerful tools to enable their clients to transform their reality more faster, more deeply than with traditional methods. Okay, so that's it for the introduction to mind shifting. I hope I didn't bore you with any too technical explanations. What I'd like to do now, Weston, or maybe